In episode 2 of this series, I will show how I kit bash 2 classical settlement containers. I'm not skilled with the Dremel, which many other great kit bashers are. Thus I have to find alternative ways to get interesting looking settlements. While these 2 containers that I will build look pretty much the same, they're actually built on 2 different ways. Also, for these 2 settlement containers, I only use 1 container. Well, I did flush out with some Stronghold parts instead. So in the end it ended up a little bit more expensive, I guess. Hi and welcome to Rabbit Tabletop. My name is Leonard, but you can call me Leo. Settlements. Today we're going to build settlement containers, or my version of it. But before we dive into that, as usual, just a few words before we get into the actual building. If you do like the video here, do consider subscribing and leaving a like. And of course, if you want to be a part of my Patreon, that would help me a lot so I can continue with future content for you guys. Currently there's a vote going on for my next video in February, so head on to my Patreon and check that out. And yes, this is going to be part 2 in this series, and if you missed the first one, you can check it out right here with this little link up here, and I hope it will show up. We'll see if that works. So first off, we have the container sprue. I'm gonna use pretty much all the parts from the container. And next up is the Stronghold sprue. Here I will indicate which parts I'll be using, so if you need to check it out, just press pause and you will see which parts are used. And here we have a support beam from the Sector Mechanicus kit, or one of the many Sector Mechanicus kit. Here I'm indicating where I'll make my initial cuts, and just showing which parts are going to be used and which ones are going to be cut off. Using a hobby saw, you will be able to cut this out in a very nice clean way. I like this part because it has nice details and a pipeline. And of course I have already pre-made mine in advance, and just ignore this part where I'm indicating that you should take away the fire extinguisher. And as you can see here, I cut off the bottom part and kept like 3 sections of this support beam. And here we have the Stronghold walls. Here I'm indicating that you need to cut off the excess part that is sticking out a little bit. And of course I made a pre-one here, just showing that you should use the mold line remover to clean it up. On these little lower parts of the Stronghold walls, there are some connection points that are pointing out a little bit, so these need to be cut off. Same thing goes with this little part here, same thing, just cut off that little thing that's sticking out. And now we're ready to assemble it. And of course, I'm using plastic glue. Now, mistakes were made as usual, but before you put on this small support here for the Stronghold, make sure you put in the door first, it slides in easier. And this is why I like plastic glue. If you make mistakes, it's easy to take off and reassemble. And now for the container itself. I'm just gonna use 2 parts. I do make the mistake of gluing the bottom part in, but since I'm using plastic glue, I can take it out with ease. And I assembled the whole container just to get a perfect fit. Once it's dried up a little bit, I can deassemble the parts I do not need. And again, I do recommend having a cutting board with guidelines so you can get the perfect angles here. Here I have deassembled the parts I don't need, so it's just one side wall and the roof. Checking and dry fitting, and I notice I need to cut off some excess parts here. I thought I could cheat a little bit, so I just cut off the part I didn't need. And as you can see, it didn't turn out as I wanted. Please make time for it and use a saw or be more precise than me. So, marking out where I should make my cuts, I take just a normal marker, cut off the excess below, and then use a hobby saw, getting a perfectly straight line. There, much better. And these top supports need to go as well, because we're not going to put anything on top of it that requires these supports. And look at that, mold line remover. No, vacuum cleaner. Alright, and here we go with the Sector Mechanicus support beams. They're going to be placed here on the sides as indicated. One is going to be placed vertically and the other one is going to be horizontal. Always cross-checking so everything looks okay from all the angles. And again, this is why I like plastic glue. If something is not really straight or in a position that I want, I can always readjust it. Here I will use the container doors as side panels. I'll be turning them, inside out, so to speak. But they're a little bit too big, so I need to cut them down a little bit. And there we have them, glued onto the sides. And as you can see here, the fire extinguisher was not really needed to be cut off. I did think it would be in the way before, but when you make your own version, you don't need to cut it off if you're going to copy my style here. Here we have some details that I'm going to add, and they're just random parts that I found. You can use whatever you want, but these are the pieces I had available in my bits box. I love ladders, and they are very important for the gameplay in Necromunda. So always make sure that I have some kind of ladders or lifts to have ease of access to different levels. Here you can see one piece has some supports, and these needs to be cut off before you put onto the settlement container. Water container or whatever it's called. Anyway, stuff I'm not gonna drink from. And there I need to cover up that little mistake I made. So I used a workshop piece here. And it fits the theme a little bit and covers up the fire extinguisher that I cut off. There we go, nobody will ever notice. Here I'm pre-measuring for the future settlement that will be on top. So I need to mark out where I'm gonna put some details to cover up this flat surface. This little piece that I found in the Stronghold kit, and using a crate, yes, to cover up the last part. Some ventilation into the settlement container, there we go. And that's the first one. Second one, pretty much the same principle, but I'm using a different door for this one. And here I need to cut off the second window to make it fit. Again, cutting off these supports on the top, not really needed for what I'm going to do here. Here I'm just checking for options of what I'm going to use to cover up the sides. And I don't want to use the Sector Mechanicus beams again, so I wanted to have something different for this one. Thus, I found a big pile of door frames. And since I don't use the doors that much, this is a perfect opportunity to use some of these door frames. And I needed the tall part of it. As you can see, there is a slight height difference on these door frames. On the back side there's some supports. These needs to go, so just take out your cutter and cut them off. Here it's very important to use the mold line remover to make it smooth. And here's another part that I have a lot of extras. The top part of the column. And with a half container like this, they fit perfectly. All I need to do is cut off the excess. Alright, assembly time. Look at that, fits like a glove. And here we go, assembling the front part of the container. And here you can see the door frames coming into place. Here I noticed there's some obstruction, so I need to make a minor adjustment, cutting off the back side of this door support. Now I've cross-checked everything, so it's time to glue it together. And here we go, the door frame. Here you can see there's a big, large, flat surface. I will cover that up later on. Details, this is really up to you really. Just add whatever you like and whatever you have in your bits box again. This piece here from the Orc workshop actually had a perfect fit right here into the window frame. And here we go, another part from the Stronghold. This one I'll be using to cover up that flat surface from the door frame. The door hinge here is a little bit too tall, so we need to cut this off. And again, this part is from the Stronghold kit. And here we go, here I'm showing off all the container settlements, or 2 of them are containers, the 3rd one is actually made out of ruins. So that's the 2 settlement containers done. And that's gonna be it for this video, and I'll try to make the next one a little bit faster, so you will see the last part of the 2nd floor. And then I'll be showing how I made this container here, or not a container, it's a settlement made out of ruins. And then I will also show this old one here. This one I have not recorded because I made this one approximately 10 months ago. And that was actually before I even considered doing YouTube videos. And as usual, if you do like the content here, please do consider becoming a patron. It really helps me out a lot. And of course you can be a part of deciding what I should make next here on YouTube. But you know what guys, this is it for this time, and I'll see you in the next one.